Welcome, transformational rock stars. This is Wake Up, Shift is Happening with Deborah Ariel Peach. Life has shifted. The conversation about health and freedom has shifted. Financial freedom and the political landscape has shifted. Division, deception, control and fear are weapons deployed in a spiritual war far beyond logical explanation. Shift is happening in just about every aspect of life, and you are caught in the upheaval. This show rises above the disruption with solutions, tools, wisdom and insight. What's emerging is a new era of spiritually awake beings. Are you ready to ignite your soul's purpose? Double down on your well-being? Anchor freedom, create community and experience epic transformation. It's time to unify, organize, strategize and execute a new game plan. Your host is an award-winning producer turned spiritual way shower. Deb leads retreats, webinars and has conducted over 1,000 private sessions. Together with her amazing guests, you're in good hands. And now, your host and guide, Deborah Ariel Peach.
All right, welcome back, all you light warriors of this whole great awakening, transformational warriors. I am Deborah Ariel Peach. You are joining me for Wake Up, Shift is Happening. And here we are, beginning of 2024, and we are diving into a subject that is very, very prevalent in this whole spiritual war. And we have a guest here that Tracy Slepcevic. And Scott and I have had the pleasure of actually spending time with Tracy and her husband. I interviewed your husband, Steve, in Vegas, and then we ended up having being able to have a meal together in Mount Shasta a few months ago and breaking bread and having an expanded conversation there. So Tracy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, Tracy, you have a story that a lot of people are familiar with, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that are not familiar with. And so you have come from a background of, I'm just going to do a laundry list of, you're a veteran of the Air Force and you became a mom. And then this situation, which you're going to share about with your son Noah occurred, which led to a whole journey of you becoming the author of a best-selling book, Warrior Mom, and then now an event coming up, which I'm not going to give it away because we're going to talk about it, but this subject is about autism. And this is a subject that is so far-reaching on our planet right now, and in the last 2 decades has become such a travesty and very traumatic experience for a lot of people. And Tracy, you and Steve have had that journey of dealing with that. So let's go back to when this became part of your life.
So when Noah turned 1, he was fully functional. He had some baby words. He was climbing the walls. He was doing really good. So we met all of his milestones. And I took him in for that 1-year well baby visit. And most well baby visits are designed for one thing, and that's typically to make sure that they're updated on their vaccines. So Noah received an MMR and a varicella that day, and within 24 hours broke out in a full body rash and became very ill for a while. It took steroids and all kinds of stuff to flush out the rash. And then over the next several months, I saw this slow decline where he lost all his speech. He lost motor skills. So the little kid who could climb the walls could no longer do that. He could not jump off 2 feet. He couldn't do all the things that he initially could do. And from there, we noticed that he lost some cognitive function as well. So the lights went out in my little boy. And I didn't know what to do as a parent. I kept asking my pediatrician, why is my kid regressing? And the only answer I got, and I know I asked this several times, was this is normal. And I'm here as a parent, as somebody who has great knowledge on the autism spectrum, that it's not normal. It's not. And to trust your inner knowing, and you said you read a little bit of Andy Wakefield's forward, where he says, mothers need to trust that inner knowing, that innate knowing that God gives us all, and that something's wrong. So I spent 2.5 years trying to figure out what was wrong, going, I thought maybe he needed to be with other kids to be social, so I put him in preschool. Preschool's like, your kid's got special needs, you should have him evaluated. Then I had him evaluated at the Harbor Regional Center. They lost my paperwork. It was a horrible evaluation, by the way. And then I tried another preschool to see if they can get him to engage more. That preschool said, I'm sorry, we can't care for your kid. And then it was like a snowball effect. It just kept spiraling. And I'm like, what is wrong? So at age 3, Noah went in for another well baby visit. And I asked this pediatrician, I said, is it possible that my kid could have autism? And that is not an easy question for any parent to ask.
No, I can't imagine.
She looks at Noah, and Noah's like spinning her stethoscope, right? He's like, do, round and round and round and round and round. Repetitive play, right? It's a symptom of those on the spectrum. And she's like, no, he's doing pretend playing, and kids, with autism don't do pretend play. So he's fine. He just needs some speech. So I was like, whew, okay, I don't have to worry about that. Onward, upward. And then I'm like, still, I'm getting kickback from, school systems and whatever. And I'm like, what is wrong with my kid? So I go into work one day, and I kid you not, God sends me angels all the time. That this woman came to work for us. Steve hired a new front desk lady, and lo and behold, she has had a son with autism. And she was able to kind of direct me where to go, what to do, and how to do it, and to have him evaluated through the school system. And literally within 2 weeks, she was gone. So she was in our lives and she was out of our lives. And so if that's not just an angel that kind of comes and goes, I don't know what is, because I never saw her again. But it was great, because then he was evaluated properly through Launch Preschool in Torrance, through the school district at age 3.5, where they said he was autistic-like. And then I took that report back to the regional center for a proper evaluation by a clinical psychologist, where he was formally diagnosed with autism. But this, you're talking, this was a total of 3 years to get that diagnosis.
And what year was that?
That was 2009. And as you know, in the same year was the same year, because my husband fights against big insurance. Steve wound up on the front page of the LA Times in a smear campaign because he exposed big insurance for fraud and collusion on the news. So
interesting.
We lost our business of 20 years. Our home went into foreclosure, everything. And then here I was, what do we do? When it rains, it pours, right?
Absolutely. And I just want to also just say, to the audience, that what you're explaining and what your journey has been, Tracy, is, I'm going to say, probably not not dissimilar from a lot of people. And so the challenges that we've been experiencing, especially since, I'm going to just say 9/11 was a turning point in our timeline for humanity. There's been so many different challenges. And at the same time, where we're at is in this great awakening, in this transition, in this spiritual war, you have to choose every single day how you are going to move beyond these challenges. And Tracy, you and Steve, obviously, it was like when you said, when it rains, it pours. You have had like the rug pulled out from underneath you in several different ways, and most people would crumble, and a lot of people have and haven't found their way back. So here is a little bit of hope for people in what Tracy is explaining and sharing in her and Steve's journey, and Noah's as well, is take this on as hope as well, because we are, I think, here in 2024, we are moving into a year that I think is we're at the precipice of some pretty epic challenges, right? So Tracy, what did you guys do?
So from there, once I found out, so the school district said Noah was autistic-like because, they can't formally diagnose a child with autism. That's not their job. That's the clinical psychologist. And anybody who thinks that a pediatrician or a speech pathologist or anybody can diagnose a child with autism, that is completely inaccurate. To get the most accurate testing done, make sure that you have, your child evaluated by a clinical psychologist. And it doesn't have to be paid for. Those services are offered through the state. So once we had answers, again, I thank God for my angels. I asked Steve, I said, I have to run back to the office real quick before we go home. And lo and behold, walking down the hall was my naturopathic doctor, to whom I was really close friends with. And he saw me crying, and he said, "What's wrong?" And I told him, I said, "Well, Noah was just diagnosed with autism, and I don't know what to do, and woe is me." And he backed up for a second, and he just looked me in the eye, and he said, "Noah's going to be okay." And
I just got chills.
Right? And he's like, "You just need to go home and do your homework," because kids are making great strides with biomedical intervention these days. And I was a psychology student. I had no idea what biomedical intervention was, but I literally sucked the tears back up into my eyes and went home and got to work, because I knew I had a short time to get a PhD in how to heal my child, because there is a small window, and that window closes older they get, to regain their speech, to clean out their gut, to really, get them to a functioning state. But more than anything in this world, I never, ever put any limitations on what God can do for anybody, when
absolutely
you've hit a wall.
Especially with two or more gathered, you and Steve as partners in this entire, situation and journey. It's a powerful duo when you, and friends and, the people that you have, building your unified field for the outcome that you intend.
Yes, I agree. And honestly, if it wasn't for, I'm gonna thank my training for it as well, because if it wasn't my background and my training, because Steve and I went through a training called impact training. So I like how you have like shift your paradigms. So we've learned so much about shifting your paradigms and not carrying on those same paradigms that, our parents passed down to us and from their grandparents. So, to really create a shift, and then depending on your mood is creating that shift. Because I tell parents it takes 3 things to really, really persevere. And one is faith. You truly have to have faith that it'll be okay, no matter what. And, then you just have to trust the process, because there is a game plan for everything. God doesn't make mistakes. So even the bad things, we can always find something good, even in bad times. Or, for instance, I go to a conference, there's not a lot of attendees, but I've made a lot of relationships with people, and so on and so forth. So you can look at the good in every situation. It's up to you. And then number 1, hands down, is set a clear intention. Set a clear intention of what it is that you choose to do and what it is you choose to create for your life and for your child's life. So when my naturopath said, "No, we'll be fine," that was the only goal I had, was to get my son to a functioning state. Nobody could tell me that he was going to, live a life that he had to be taken care of for the rest of his life. And I set that clear intention, and I achieved that goal.
Yes. So, and we're going to talk about Noah, and in just a moment, I want to come back to his journey, where he is now. But also, what I really want to acknowledge with you, Tracy, is I refer to this as a spiritual teacher and an activator, and working with clients and students, that you were on an alchemical transformational journey, where you went through. This was like and this is where conscious choice comes in, where you have the opportunity to make the conscious choice to engage with this, whatever situation it is, and what the outcome it is that you want. But it brings to the forefront, should you choose, your soul destiny, and allowing your soul to really be the brilliance of who you are as a soul being to shine out there in the world. And so in this situation with Noah, it was the opportunity that gave you more of that brilliance to shine out there in the world.
It did.
So, exactly. And now Noah. So tell us about where Noah is. And then before we go to the next, before we go to the commercial break, I would like to read the last part of the foreword from Dr. Andreas Wakefield and what he shared, because that's going to lead into the second segment. So how is Noah now?
Noah's doing fantastic. He is a typical teenager. He drives, he goes to college. He excels in whatever he does. He's super smart. And he is fully functional. He can take care of himself. He goes to his appointments on his own. He's at an appointment now. He goes to the gym 3 days a week. Now, does he adhere to my dietary restrictions anymore? He doesn't, but that's part of being a teenager. And
right.
I've been there, so I can't knock him for it, right? So he's like, there's all these foods that you never gave me. And I said, that's because it's not food. So I didn't give it to you. But he's doing so well. And all I wanted for him was for him to be able to function and, take care of himself. Financially, Kenny, no, it's a struggle for any kid in this generation to be able to take care.
Oh my gosh.
So, but other
crazy.
than that, I can leave and go out of town and Noah's fine. Will he feed the dogs? I don't know. He will, but they might, it might be 2 or 3 hours later.
Well, it's actually, if anybody saw the film, what was Andy's first one? It was Vaxxed. What was it? What was the first one that Andy did with Dell?
Named Alex Bodydakis.
Okay. Well, in any case, for some reason the name is is escaping me. But the point is that the spectrum of the people that have autism, it is what you're describing, Noah's experience and the way that he is can be night and day compared to other people that have autism that are completely dysfunctional, have to have 24/7 care, just as if they are to have dementia, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So absolute kudos to you, because you set your sight on an outcome and you've achieved it to the point where you functioning as a family have the ability to have some normalcy compared to so many of these other people. Now, you've referred to food and the gut. And if you can just touch upon that, because the whole aspect of our gut health is so imperative. So what did you learn from this journey? So
your gut's kind of like, your gut and your liver are kind of like your second brain, but your gut is connected to your brain via your nervous system. So we all, to some extent, have something going on in our guts. It could be anywhere from like some level of yeast. You could have bacteria, you could have parasites, you can have all these things. And what happens is, if you get something called leaky gut, and that's when the lining, the epithelial cells in the lining of the intestinal wall start to deaden, and it creates gaps as to where where it usually pulls in just, the good stuff, the proteins and the nutrients and everything that your body needs to survive. And it leaves the bad stuff out. So what happens is when you start to destroy that lining and you get leaky gut, all the bad stuff starts to leak into the bloodstream, and it acts as kind of like opiates on the brain. So it's super important. And Dr. Andrew Wakefield's whole journey started from, mothers coming to him and expressing their concern about their child who was on the spectrum and that they were in pain, that they had stomach pain. So the main thing isn't to change them or, create something different, but to really address those underlying conditions that they have so they can live a functioning life and they can live, free of this pain in their gut. So it really does start in the gut.
Right. Now, but the other aspect of this is that your Noah's situation was you consider this a VAX injury, correct?
So here's what I say. You can have a whole abundance of genetic predispositions, but it's going to be some sort of environmental factor that triggers it. So we are in a toxic soup. So from processed GMO foods to glyphosate in everything, even our clothes, the air we breathe, the chemtrails above us. I mean, we can't get away from it. We just can't. And so do I believe that the childhood vaccine schedule is a slingshot for these kids to regress into a state of autism? Yes, I do. Absolutely. Yeah. My story is not original. It is not the first. It's one of many, and it's one of many thousands. And now going from, a rate of 1 in 10,000 in the 80s to 1 in 36. And that's just evaluating 8-year-olds. That isn't evaluating a spectrum of age.
Could you say that stat again? Because I just want to make sure people don't miss that.
So initially, 80s, 1 in 10,000, unheard of. When we were in classrooms, we didn't see kids with autism or any type of neurological disorder. Now, 1 in 36 is what the CDC has reported.
Not 3,600, not 36,000, it's 36, period.
Yes.
That's major.
That's an epidemic.
It is. It's an epidemic. It's a paradigm shift, and it's not a good paradigm shift. No. So actually, what I'd like to do is we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to read what Andy wrote in your foreword, and that's going to lead into where we're at right now in the in this whole designed assault against humanity, the elements that are playing out, and even how you are experiencing the censorship as you have really stepped forward as a leader. And in addition, I don't think I even said this at the beginning, through this journey, you became a certified naturopath. Is that correct?
Holistic practitioner. So no, I'm not
holistic
a
practitioner.
Doctor. No, I just got my bachelor's degree.
Okay. So, but it led you to a whole nother level of education and becoming an expert in a field that you may not have ever really delved into prior to this.
Correct.
Okay, so stay tuned. You are joining us here at Wake Up Shift is Happening. My guest is the awesome Tracy Slepcevic, author, best-selling author, warrior mom, an upcoming event, Autism Health Summit coming up in February 2024, and the special offer that we've got for that, as well as all the other things we're going to get into. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Disasters are striking at an alarming rate across the planet. No matter how much you've prepared with food and water, what you and your loved ones need is uninterrupted communication. Between woke corporations and power outages, having a sat phone has become essential in today's world. With access to over 60 satellites globally, you're covered wherever you are. Remember when 60,000 people got stuck in the mud at Burning Man for over 3 days? The only communications were with sat phones. The Maui fire and other disasters worldwide show us the necessity of emergency communications. The people at the satellite phone store are totally committed to the betterment of humanity. Check out their website at sat123.com. For as little as $90 a month, you can have the reassurance of secure communication. Tell them Deb and Scott of Wake Up Shift is Happening sent you for additional offers and to support our show. You'll be grateful you made this choice. Einstein famously said, "The field is the only reality." So how do you engage with your field? Some people pray, others meditate. Deborah Peach offers an engaging alternative. Experiential and transformational tools. Kind of like a guided meditation on steroids, but loaded with activation energy. What's that, you ask? Activation energy is a coded high vibration communication that triggers brain synapses and alchemical transformation in your body, helping you to break through blocks, trigger emotions stuffed deep, most likely the ones you thought you'd already handled. Don't think you'll just plug it in, turn it on and let the tool do the work. Experiential means you're an active engager. It's your reality you are creating. If you're uncertain of the future, feeling ungrounded or coming under energetic attack, Deb has tools to assist. They're like training wheels until you strengthen your spiritual muscles. Look for experiential tools on transcendthematrix.com.
All right, welcome back to Wake Up Shift is Happening. So I'm here with Tracy Slepcevic and Warrior Mom, and it's awesome because the whole aspect of where we are in this Great Awakening, we have our Warrior of Light Ministries, and I think really it's like it's crazy and amazing how at this time really we need to step into being warriors in so many ways, right? And so. How did you actually come up with the title of your book?
Well, I think many people came up with it for me because over the years, and when I would tell my story, people were like, "Wow, you're such a warrior mom." So it always lingered in the back of my mind. And then I always wanted to write a book. And I guess it was just that, my own paradigms of thinking that I wasn't smart enough or intelligent enough or whatever to, become an author or to actually write a book. And then even after I wrote it, it was hard to believe that I actually wrote it. So one day when I was at a retreat, and I met somebody new, and we were talking, and she's like, "Oh, I wrote a book and I do this and I travel." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I've always wanted to write a book." And she's like, "Well, what's stopping you?" So this is where I kind of say God always, sends those angels my way. And COVID had just started. So it was the perfect timing. And I know God always has the perfect timing for us. And there are no accidents in life. So I went home and I just started to do some research, and I took a workshop online on, how to write a book. And I always knew what my title would be. And it always played through my head, my story of telling it. But I really just wanted to tell just enough of my story to be able to inspire parents, because I've mentored parents over many years, probably the last 13, 14 years. And the one thing I get from the ones who just don't want to do the work is, woe is me, it costs so much money. Well, you have to realize, Steve and I had lost our business, we lost our home, and, we didn't have two nickels to rub together at that time.
Right.
So I bartered for
Been there, done that.
I negotiated. I sold everything I owned except my wedding ring to make sure that everything for Noah was paid for. But there was nobody who could say no to me. There just wasn't. Because like I said earlier, I set that clear intention